Good afternoon, beautiful people. Happy Friday. Welcome to Arise with Jessica Carey. Thank you for joining me and thank you for tuning in later when you watch this video. And this week, I am musing on the gorgeous cinnamon bark and how I've practically used that in my space and how I've anchored into the essence of it. So firstly, the first bit of insight I want to share about cinnamon is the importance of diluting this oil and using a carrier oil with it. So the importance of using a carrier oil with this beautiful spice is very, very important. It can cause a slight irritation on the skin if you have sensitive skin, but also if you don't. So if you think of spices or anything, they're quite hot. So the importance of using a carrier oil with all essential oils to support the skin with any irritation, but also because these oils are lipid soluble, so they actually disperse better in the body when used with a carrier oil. But the difference with the spice oils such as cinnamon or cassia that I did a couple of weeks ago, or clove, on guard, those type of oils, if you think of those type of spices, they are hot, so they can cause an irritation on the skin. So the importance of using a carrier oil is the first thing that I want to share when using this oil. When I first used this oil, I actually used it without, and cinnamon is actually the oil of sexual harmony. So I'm going to actually speak into that, but what I'd actually used, I'd mixed it with a couple of things to apply to my womb, and I'd just been to the beautician. And I didn't use a carrier oil, so I would not recommend not using a carrier oil. So please use a fractionated coconut oil or an almond oil or something to dilute this oil, no matter how you use it. Cinnamon this week I've used really practically in things that I need spice to. Anything that you would add a ground cinnamon to, I use it as an alternative. So adding things to like your chai again, or your different teas. It's a very warming spice. So I found it really beautiful to use in things like your banana bread or anything that you would add spice to. So I would love to know any ways that you guys incorporate cinnamon into your home and into your food. Hello, darling Kimberly. Mwah. So cinnamon, I found a really beautiful oil to add to different diffuser blends as well, especially now that we're coming into an Aussie winter. It's really beautiful to add to the diffuser with other warming oils. It creates a harmony in the home that I just feel brings a lot of warmth and a lot of, it's just very snuggly. So what I love about using cinnamon is I add it with things like the citrus oils. So like something like your wild orange or your tangerine, something that's got a bit of that's going to soften that citrus. But even using things like wild orange and cinnamon together in food is out of this world. So using it as a beautiful food additive as well for that. Cinnamon in the diffuser, my favorite blend was wild orange, cinnamon, and I softened it. No, I added a little bit of vetiver or a little bit of myrrh with that, just to ground that really earthiness into it. I found that a really beautiful blend. Cinnamon is also found in our beautiful On Guard blend. So it's really beautiful for airborne threats and viruses. So I love using it in the diffuser for that, in a replacement to On Guard. So I love using it with the companion oils of citruses and then really earthy oils as well in the diffuser. That's pretty much the practical ways I've used it as a food additive in the diffuser, and then adding it to roller blends as well to add that warmth and spice. So, but my favorite thing about this oil, that I've actually worked with this oil for a couple of years quite beautifully, and I actually want to share something with you, especially for the women who will watch this video, and how I've incorporated it. So this beautiful little guy, beautiful cinnamon bark, comes from the bark of a tree. But my favorite use for it is actually using it for our sacral chakra. So our sacral chakra governs our creativity, our sexual energy. It's a beautiful space that can cultivate so much expansiveness in our body. But unfortunately, in a world we live in, there's been there's been a lot of suppression around what pure and true sexuality is. There's a lot of stories around it. So what I've anchored into this week, which is what I want to share with you, is a little bit about how I use cinnamon to anchor into the essence or the emotional and energetic work of cinnamon as the oil of sexual harmony. So if you look at the world that we live in, there's so many different polarities and portrayals of sexuality, and so many of them are warped. So many of them are extreme, but so many of them are also really suppressed. And sexuality is a very important part of our life as human beings. It's a part of who we are as human beings. Yet there are so many stories and there are so many different distortions of what that means. So when I tune and anchor into cinnamon and the essence of it, which is the oil of sexual harmony, I really tune into myself of how it can support my reproductive organs, how it can support, heal any sexual issues. And I'm going to just read something from this beautiful book. It says it assists individuals in accepting their body and embracing their physical attractiveness. Like, how often are we just not embracing that we're freaking beautiful human beings and our bodies are just divine just as they are? And it dispels fear and rejection and nurtures healthy sexuality. It rekindles sexual energies when there has been repression, trauma, or abuse. And it can also bring clarity to souls who struggle with their sexual identity. So what I love about this oil and how I'm going to share personally how I've incorporated it for the last couple of years. So I, for the last couple of years, have tracked my menstrual cycle, and I've really worked at clearing out anything stuck in my womb, anything that is blocking my creativity, that could cause any reproductive health issues or any disease or disharmony in that space. There seems to be an epidemic of so many men and women with stuck energy that is causing disease and disharmony in their sacral area with their reproductive organs. So it's something I've been interested in for a couple of years in really supporting myself in that way. So one of the ways I do that is I track my moon cycle, and I've actually learned to track it in when I'm ovulating, when I'm bleeding, when I'm in different parts of my cycle, when I'm premenstrual, etc., when I'm pre-ovulation. So what I've done is I've actually created a blend that I use for 2 weeks when I'm premenstrual and bleeding, and then I made another blend that's for when I'm pre-ovulation and ovulating. So what I've incorporated cinnamon in for is cinnamon is in my blend that I use while I'm ovulating. So it supports cultivating a healthy sexual energy. And if you know anything about the body, it's going to explain when we're ovulating, obviously we want to make a baby. So when our woman's body is naturally designed to create life. So when we are ovulating and when we don't ovulate, obviously that's when we move to our next cycle and then we bleed again. So when we're ovulating, it's obviously a time where it's really important to cultivate a really beautiful relationship with your own sexual energy. So I'm going to share with you my blend. So my blend has got a few things in it, so I'm going to read them to you. And this is what I blend. This is what I actually spray. This is a little spray bottle I use, and I actually spray this on my womb and abdominal area every morning and night for those 2 weeks of my cycle, if you have a 28-day cycle. So this is where really tuning into your body is really, really important. So this blend's got ylang ylang, clary sage, geranium, patchouli, sandalwood, bergamot, cinnamon, and black pepper. So this blend I've used for a couple of years, and I've got another blend that I use for premenstrual and when I'm bleeding. But this blend is phenomenal. So what I found it really wonderful for me for is just tuning into that energy within my body and allowing myself to really feel the sensations that we feel as a woman in our body through our cycle. Like, we're cyclic, so we're never going to just constantly feel the same. We're never going to just always have high energy, always have low energy. So what I love about why I make these blends and the intention behind them is to honor my body in that time, and it gives my body a mutual love and respect to it. So what I've found personally that it's supported me in, it's actually supported me in releasing any suppressed sexual energy, and supported me in cultivating a really beautiful relationship within accepting my body and embracing my own sexual attractiveness, but also clearing any distortions around what it means. There's so many ways that sexuality is portrayed in the world, and unfortunately from a very young age there's so many distortions of that through pornography and through so many things, and it can actually suppress or elevate a man or a woman's sexual energy in so many different ways. So it's a really important conversation to have, and I'm not going to go into full detail into it, but what I have found through using cinnamon, it has really anchored me into knowing what sexual harmony is for me, what that means, what boundaries are, what my needs are, how to express those needs, and how to really cultivate a beautiful relationship around my own sexuality and my own sensuality and my own essence and being a woman. So I would encourage you to use this oil to tap into that within yourself, because so much energy can get stuck in our sacral chakra. And one of my favorite things is teaching women how to connect back to that part of themselves, because when we can clear and when we can connect to our body in a way that it's cyclic and how we are born to live, it creates a whole new level of freedom in how we can show up in the world and how we can be in the world with that energy. Because sexual energy can be used to manipulate, it can be suppressed, it can be hidden through insecurities. There's just so many layers of it, and I'm not gonna go into it today, but I guess cinnamon has invited me to really create a relationship with that part of me. And yeah, you know, I've done this for like 2.5 years now, and I feel really centered in that part of me, and I feel really really clear, and I know what my body and what my emotional body, my physical body, and my energetic body needs in that way. And I think that's a really important relationship to have, because the relationship with self is really, really important, because then you can express that with boundaries or with what you need, or being able to communicate that in a really gentle but in a power way. So what I found this has done for me, it actually allows true intimacy to emerge. True intimacy with your own soul, but also with those that you choose to pursue a relationship or have intimate relationships with. So I think that's really important. Again, because there's so many different distortions of how we show up in the world. So I encourage you to really tune into cinnamon, not only for its physical benefits and practical benefits within your food flavoring, and you add it to your chai and add it to your diffuser for that warming effect, but really tuning into the energetic essence of it and how it can support your womb space and support cultivating a really healthy sexual relationship with yourself, therefore attracting someone you can also share that with. So I hope that's really supported you, but I would encourage you to make that blend. It's really, really cool. If you have any other questions about how you can tap in and tune into your cycle more, please reach out, please PM me. And if you need those recipes, let me know. If you don't have your own wholesale account and you're interested in getting started and you want to know more about how you can tune into the essence of essential oils and how they can support your overall lifestyle and health, please reach out to me. Hello, darling. Mwah. And that is cinnamon week. This is cinnamon bark week. So thank you for joining me live, ladies. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everyone who watches this later. But next week, I'm tuning into the gorgeous essence of clary sage. So I'm really excited to bring bring that with you guys. It's going to merge a little bit with today as well, but I've got so much to share about this gorgeous oil as well. So I hope you have a beautiful weekend. If you want to see anything else that I shared around cinnamon bark this week, please check out my Rise with Jessica Carey page. I've shared so many things this week on it. But otherwise, have a beautiful weekend, and I will see you next week for Clary Sage Week. Mwah.